Hello there. Here we are with issue 22. And so let's go ahead and take a look at this. So before we get started on the Lambda Class Shuttle, let's go ahead and review the data of the issue. So let's bounce over to my little spreadsheet and have a look at that. Okay, so here we are with the kind of the details, the data showing for this issue. And so I've got this highlighted and we're in the issue breakdown. So we're in issue 22. We have a video count of 1. The topic was under the corridor. The total build time for this one was 1 hour and 27 minutes. It took a total of 4 video captures to create the entire episode this time. Total capture video was 1 hour and 7 minutes, and the final video was 34 minutes and 19 seconds long. So we didn't put any screws in this time. We didn't use anything, special materials or anything. We did use glue, but I haven't been annotating those. We did glue in 8 parts, and we used wood brown and black paint. Of course, we don't know how long the bonus video is at the moment, and it looks like I don't have the bonus the video details from issue 21, which I'll have to get that in there. And then of course here's our additional details over here. So let's go ahead and go to the video counter so we show that we have the one video and that breaks down into 34 minutes 19 seconds, which is a total of 2059 seconds. Let's go ahead and check here, and here we'll be able to see the actual capture time. So the first capture was 12 minutes and 41 seconds, and that, we go through the preview of the episode and we cut out the pieces and sanded those up, and then we get into capture 2, which is where I did a lot of the painting and that kind of stuff. And then the final part was getting them all glued in and that kind of thing. So in this table here, we can also see that total capture time was 1 hour and 7 minutes, and this is calculated. You can see my formula over here, and then I put in my estimated off-camera time here, which was only 20 minutes, and that includes washing paintbrushes and washing the parts after I get them cut out and sanded down. So we have that. Now we can go over to our total stats, and we can see that we have 39 episodes, which has changed, and then we would have a total of 120 captures to do those 39 episodes. We have a total video time of 21 hours and 28 minutes, and a total build time of 68 hours and 25 minutes. Our average time is down to 33 minutes and 3 seconds, and our shortest issue is, and I've got this annotated in there because of how it's calculating and pulling that data from a bunch of zeros. So 0 would be the shortest issue in that regard. But the shortest issue I've typed it in is 16 minutes and 40 seconds. We've put in a total of, as of this issue, we've put in 365 glued in parts, and that's one for every day of the year. Of which I haven't been doing it for a year. I've only been doing it for 39 weeks. Technically, 39 weeks. We had 1 week in between where we did the review, and we've used approximately 151 micro brushes, so that's pretty interesting as well. So that's a lot of micro brushes. So that's the breakdown. Let's go ahead and get back to the review of the magazine. Okay, so hopefully you guys find that data interesting. I think it's kind of interesting. I mean, I am keeping it after all, but I know there's been some people that have asked for it, and hopefully more people find it interesting than just myself and the few that has asked for it. So if you do, then I'll continue sharing it. If not, I might consider just throwing it into my periodic overall reviews of everything. So let's go ahead and have a look at the Lambda Class Shuttle. This is built by the Sinar Fleet Systems. It's a shuttle. It's 20 meters long. Its speed is 50 megalight. Capacity is 1 to 6 crew, plus over 20 passengers, or 8 in staterooms. It's got uh, 2 Tam and Bach KX-5 dual laser cannons, forward mounted, uh, 2 Tam and Bach GA-60 twin rotating blaster cannons, 1 RMEC RZ-0 retractable double laser cannon mounted on the rear, and it's got deflector shields. So the deflector shield is pretty important. So was widely used in the Imperial fleet due to its impressive reliability record. The most common version, the T-4A, can be configured as a diplomatic transport, cargo carrier, courier vessel, and troop deployment ship. The Lambda Class Shuttle has 2 powerful SFS 204 sublight ion engines and his distinctive triangle design with a fixed dorsal fin in the center and 2 folding wings. So that's something that we all understand. One of the things that I'm not going to go through everything like I did the last issue. I think that kind of got drug out a little bit. Although I think some of you guys may have liked it, but I want to hit some of the high points here. So they fold up. The folding wings, the 2 folding wings, they're heavily shielded, fold upwards to protect the vessel's occupants. So the wings that fold down are extremely heavily shielded, and so one of the reasons why they fold up when they land, obviously they kind of need to, but also it's part of the design is that it helps protect the occupants as it's coming in for a landing. The wings are lowered and the ship rises and takes off to give the shuttle the more aerodynamic shape and consequently more speed. So again, this is something that many of the higher-ranking Imperial officers, bureaucrats favor the shuttle for personal transport due to its heavily reinforced hull and shielding capability and weaponry. So it was had a lot of weapons for a ship that size. Plus, it had decent size overall. It was fairly quick, and we do know that it had the capability of hyperspace, and it could be probably decked out pretty fancy, you know. So um, sometimes even with military escort. Emperor himself used a highly modified version of the T-4A Lambda Class Shuttle, which allowed him to travel with his aides by his side. So that's important. The versatile carrier, the Lambda Class Shuttle, can carry 80 tons and was designed as both a cargo and troop transport. The cockpit is at the front of the craft, and the boarding/loading ramp is behind and under it. It can hold a maximum of over 20 passengers, although the high-ranking individuals are transported in luxurious staterooms, holding a maximum of 8. It normally requires a crew of 6, pilot, co-pilot, navigator, communications officer, a gunner, and an engineer, but when the need arises, such as an emergency, a shuttle can be piloted by a single officer. So it's got some pretty awesome defensive measures. You know, we talked about the cannons and that kind of stuff. The deflector shields were very formidable. Um, in fact, they were the best available, and it's a heavily reinforced hull. Some here, the cockpit can be jettisoned from the main body of the shuttle, so that was pretty interesting. You could use the cockpit as an escape pod type of thing, and the cockpit was able to travel short distances at sublight speed during using rocket thrusters, albeit with a vastly reduced passenger count of no more than 6 people, which would be important. So, of course, in that configuration, if you had any high-ranking officials, they would probably take up some of that space, and some of that crew would be kicked out of there. So, alternative versions built by the Sinar fleet, and it was one of their best-selling lines. Had a long waiting list, and uh, not only is the shuttle extensively used for official duties, but was also popular with many of the galaxy's wealthiest individuals. Um, this part I thought was rather interesting. In order to meet demand for the shuttle, the technological genius behind its design, Raith Senar, decided to subcontract a variant of the shuttle to Cygnus Spaceworks. This design was heavily armed military version of the shuttle, but Cygnus Spaceworks was not content with producing just this and tried to compete directly with Sinar Fleet Systems by producing non-military versions of the T-4A that appears to be almost identical apart from some minor subtle differences. So we're talking about a little bit of corporate espionage there. So, here it talks about how Palpatine, went to the Death Star, on that and that kind of thing. Over here, this talks about them using a Lambda Class Shuttle uh, when they uh, went to the forest moon of Endor. So we all know that. Recycling. So this is pretty interesting. This is our behind the scenes portion. Even though the first two Star Wars films were a huge success, production on Return of the Jedi was never proliferate, which basically means sure thing, and they didn't use a lot of money or whatever. The shuttle set was recycled for the use of the for the use by Darth Vader, the Emperor, and the Rebels, appearing as different ships each time. When drawings based on the concept art by Joe Johnson didn't look as envisioned, ILM's Bill George built a model to guide the set builders, constructing the set on stage 4 at L Street Studios. It was then just moved around as needed. Blueprints by draftsman Reg Bream, dated 26 October 1981, are beautifully detailed, although Bream's notes indicate that the height of the wings had yet been determined. It was to be adjusted in relation to the matte paintings that would convey the illusion of an immense hangar to the audience. So they used matte paintings for this part over here, and and also in the Rebel fleet. I can't remember if you could see it in the background or not, but yeah. So um, it helps give the illusion. Sets created for the movie include the Death Star, docking bay, and the Rebel hangar. And although the photos exist of the shuttle and the Rebel hangar, where it was dressed up to look dirty and banged up, whenever the ship is on screen, it always looks pristine. So the one that the Rebels used was supposed to be dirty and banged up to kind of, I don't know, maybe help hide some of the markings and that kind of stuff, and make it look like it was more of a uh, cargo ship, which is what they were trying to go for, than anything else. But when they filmed it in flight, it was always pristine because they only had the one model. So that was pretty interesting. The history of Polis Massa, Polis Massa. That's it. So this part was interesting in the fact that if you see this picture here, see if we can kind of try to get this without, there we go, this portion there. So this was from Revenge of the Sith, and so that's where the importance of that is. So one of the things that was rather interesting about this was an asteroid field that resulted from some sort of cataclysmic event that destroyed this planet, and there was a handful of different nearby civilizations that tried to lay claim to that planet, as far as saying that that was some of their uh, ancient uh, relations and that kind of stuff. So, but there was the one planet that, uh, or the one group that kind of did the most of it. So, archaeology, the Caledonian sentient catechetian native to the world of Calada, gained the misleading name of Polis Massans, because that's a hard word for me to say for some reason, because of the centuries they spent conducting archaeological digs on their adopted home. So these guys actually had gone there and they'd spent so much time there, centuries, that they pretty much adopted it and kind of ended up being known as the Polis Massa population. And they had pretty much kind of moved everything there, and that kind of thing. So they were basically looking for clues of through archaeological digs and stuff that tried to prove that they were part of the same race or what have you. But that was rather interesting. So they were out on the outer rim, and they weren't really. It wasn't very close to a normal trade route or anything like that, so they never really got bothered. But uh, they were kind of part of the Republic, but the Republic kind of forgot about them for the most part, and then the Empire pretty much forgot about them completely because they were just so far out of the way, and they didn't really offer a lot in the way of materials and that kind of stuff. Their sole intention was to find evidence of their missing ancestors and, if at all possible, bring them back to life through cloning. So these guys had learned from the masters of cloners of Camino. So they were going to clone the previous ancestors and try to bring them back to life. So that was kind of interesting. Behind the scenes, Arthur C. Clarke's short story, The Sentinel, written in 1948 and published in 1951, had a tremendous impact on science fiction by 1968 with the release of Stanley Kubrick's groundbreaking motion picture 2001: A Space Odyssey. It also inspired the landscape of sci-fi and the films that succeeded it. Setting a high watermark of quality in A New Hope, George Lucas steered away from the shiny and polished aesthetics of 2001 and opted for the used universe approach to design, making the world's vehicles and technology and people more used and lived in. Moving forward to 1999, The Phantom Menace, the worlds of the pre-Clone War prequels were much cleaner to highlight the more stable state of the galaxy at the time. Although the galaxy had been changed immensely by the time of the Revenge of the Sith, it had not yet sunk into a long-term decay. So the reason why this was significant, this is where Luke and Leia was actually born. So because these guys were, great cloners of their own right, they had everything on these research um, areas. So they did everything on these domes, and then they dug these shafts down to do all the archaeological digs and all that kind of stuff. So, but they had great medical facilities and some of the best in the galaxy. So that's why they took Padme there for the childbirth. Was they were hoping to actually save her, but they weren't able to do that. So, and it was a out of the way type of thing and whatnot. So pretty cool, pretty interesting. So here we are with the Hanx-Wargel main computer, and this is part of our secrets of spaceflight. And at the heart of every starship is its main computer. His job is to interface with all of the ship's vital systems and feed real-time data to her captain and key crew members. Um, uh, so this basically is just kind of going through more or less the main part of what the ships why they would need a computer and all that kind of stuff, because basically it's going to run everything. It's much like the planes now. I mean, they've got their own computers and all that kind of stuff, and it pretty much controls most everything. They do all the fly-by-wire stuff now. So 60 years before the Battle of Yavin, a new generation of droid brain oversaw the construction of the YT-1300 Corellian freighter that would become the Millennium Falcon. The brain was installed at the very center of a stock Hanx-Wargel Superflow 4 main computer at the Corellian Engineering Corporation. So basically, they're installing this kind of artificial brain, and what they're saying here is at some point something happened. Well, first of all, it's saying that no two YT-1300s left the assembly facility the same. The computer was also able to adapt to the ship's itself, so the computer had to be very adaptable to the different configurations and stuff like that, and it basically could learn on the fly. One of the lesser functions was to act as a flight recorder, maintain record of the ship's travel, registration, various pilots of the craft, and also recorded their thoughts within it. So if Han wanted to kind of do a captain's captain's log type of thing, he could have done that. So what they're saying is uh, that the Falcon's computer had to be reconditioned more than once, and most notably after the ship was badly damaged by a collision after the Clone Wars because of the high cost of the factory guaranteed superflow. And we'll come back to this page. The ship's original brain was removed and replaced with what was probably a superior targeting and fire control unit from a decommissioned separatist tri-fighter command ship. Um, And basically, what it's saying is three separate droid brains are linked into the Millennium Falcon's brain. And so they're saying a slicer droid brain was in there. We have a V5 transport droid brain, and this one is an R3 astromech brain. So they're saying these three brains were configured and put into the Superflow 4 computer to basically make up the new main computer of the Millennium Falcon. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Obviously, we don't quite know how accurate that is. We do specifically know that um, uh, was it Y3, T3? Can't remember the droid's name in Solo Story, but we do know that droid is actually part of the Millennium Falcon now. So that was kind of interesting. So um, there is some credence to that as far as the droid brains being part of it. And keep in mind that this stuff here was written well before that movie came out. So uh, I'm sure that they pulled all of this information from actual resources that had been somewhat accepted by Lucasfilm, I would think, and then so they use this information with what was kind of accepted at the time, and which tells me that when they did the Solo Story, they used that same material and said, "Hey, we can put this droid brain in there," and it all fits. So Ben Burtt and the creation of Droid Speak. So this is another behind the scenes. One of C3PO's key functions is to act as an interpreter between humans and droids' computer brains. Although some people are able to understand what droids such as R2-D2 are trying to communicate, all droids can speak and understand binary, also known as droid speak. But there is no direct relation between the binary of Star Wars Galaxy and the binary numeric system that forms the basis of real-world computer architecture. When droid speak is vocalized, it is composed of electronic sounds including beeps, buzzes, chirrups, whistles, and whoops. When the Star Wars sound designer Ben Burtt was tasked with coming up with R2-D2's speech, he wanted to use a mixture of mechanical robotic sounds and the organic patterns of the human vocalization. Originally, Burtt wanted to record babies making babbling gaga goo goo sounds, but it was almost impossible to get them to perform on cue. Instead, he recorded human noises and sounds, modified them electronically, and mixed them with electronic noises he synthesized. Once he had enough to sound like an entire vocabulary, this was stitched together to make all of R2's dialogue for the film. So here, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to stop talking here in a second, and I'm going to go ahead and play all of the sounds that I can find for R2D2. Um, I don't think I have them all, but I know a place where I can get them real quick, and uh, I'll bring up text for what they're supposed to mean, like happy, sad, aggressive, whatever. They're all kind of labeled depending on what their meaning is supposed to be. So here we go. All right. So hopefully you found that part interesting. I thought that was kind of cool. And that's some audio files that I ran across a while ago, and I don't use them very much, but I do every now and then. Actually, my my ringtone for my notifications is actually R2D2, one of his notifications. I'll play that one here. That's the one I use for my ringtone. So pretty cool. All right, so corridor set details. This is another behind the scenes specifically for this. So construction drawings from 1976 show some interesting features in the planning of the movie set depicting the corridor and passage tube. The entrance of the the entrance of the passage tube is a pinched point described as 4 foot wide by 6 feet 4 inches high. It's rectangular, and there were to have been removable gratings running along both sides of the floor of the tube. While the general layout of the set remained the same, some of the details changed. In particular, the entrance became even more cramped with the lower ceiling and the gratings, which may have related to the smuggling compartments that ended up in the main corridor, remain in place. So I think that's what he's talking about, maybe for the entrance place, or maybe that's what he's talking about that goes into the this part that we're doing that goes into the cockpit. I'm not sure. Uh, this still from for episode 4 shows that the limited headroom in the main corridor and reduced height of the side entrance. Harrison Ford is 1.85 meters tall. A detail right of the set drawing from 25 March 1976 showing the corridor, the construction of the corridor. So there's the archway, and these are the pads that go across. So we're talking about that's this part here. So interesting. Um, so actually, it seems to me like the corridor is a lot taller than what they're saying. They said it was more cramped, but maybe they're talking about this space here going into the doorway. I don't know, but interesting nonetheless. So there we are with issue 22. So we did this. Next time we are going to, in issue 23, we are going to go ahead and get some more parts to include the top and of the corridor and all that kind of stuff. So we'll be able to finish that up. In fact, I just gave you a sneak peek. I have already done it, and it's all done. So you just got a sneak peek if you were paying attention just a few seconds ago. And we'll be finishing that up in the next episode. So there you go. Can't wait to see you in that next one where you get to see how I finish that up. So catch you in the next episode, and may the force be with you always.